what we've been hearing out there is how much this cannot be done, how you have not made any progress. So I'm actually shifting and asking you, Mr. Mushai, if he is doing as much as he says he is doing, what's the holdup? Why isn't the private sector coming to the party? Why haven't we started? Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot here. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Irene. I get the easy question first. But thank you very much all, and thank you very much, Charles. It's always a hard act to follow. He's quite the evangelist for affordable housing. I think the man for the job, no doubt, is the best suited man in government today. And I think we agree, I think, from private sector. So private sector is keen on developing more housing, especially developers in housing. We want to build more houses. That's what we do, as well as commercial and other things. So it is a big area that we are working on. In terms of affordable housing, even last year before, was that not last year, the year before? Which year was it? When did we start the affordable housing task force? Yeah, 2016. We had our own task force among private developers just looking at how can we grow into this space, because we see a big gap in housing. Slightly different approach or wording, we call it dignified housing, because I think, and I can start there, I think we have, as KPDA, we have worries about the stats that are given about what the demand is. Because, and I was talking to somebody earlier, if we have a gap of 1 million houses, we'd be walking over people sleeping on the street on the way home. So the gap is not that big. But obviously,
Mr. Mushai, what you're saying is that we need less houses than the 1.9 that he just outlined.
What we need to improve a lot of houses.
Okay.
We need to improve a lot of houses, that's one. Two, there is, the bias on government side is home ownership. But I think, we think the market is somewhere to live. What people want is somewhere to live. They don't necessarily want to own their homes. So even when we have a start like this, 1,000 units added in affordable housing, that is 1,000 units for sale. But if you drive, I drove the other day past Rirota towards Dagoretti. I have not been on that road for a long time. If you look left and right, the amount of building that is going on there is ridiculous. It's the same in Mushada, in parts of, Roy Road, Julia. There's a lot of building going on. But none of that is for ownership. It's all for rental. So there's a lot of rental coming in, and I think that is to do with the point the PS mentioned, that the gap between owning and renting, there's a 6 times thing, so people are more willing to rent. So there's an issue then, again, an economic issue of, do people actually want to buy houses, or how many people want to buy houses? I think I take his point, it's how many people can afford to buy the house. So it becomes an issue of, I can't even afford it. But actually, if you take the stats of home ownership in Kenya, I don't know who has the stats, who knows what the stats, what is home ownership in Kenya? Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. No, that's urban. It's actually 64%.
Home ownership.
Yes. Kenya.
What?
Yes.
Does that include mud houses and
Yeah.
That is not correct. The house ownership we use conflates the fact that I have a house in the village.
Yes.
But that's not quite the same thing.
It is, why it becomes important is because there are many people, and that's one of the debates we've had with the PS, there are many people, some of us among here, we were having a chat earlier with us, who, do they want an urban house? Do they want to own a house in the city?
I think they do, but they can't afford it.
We'll get to the question, but our view is that there are very many people, and I know it's like, I can say my staff, my driver, or my house, or whatever, if I gave them 1 million shillings, they will not go to Kangemi or Kamwari to buy a house. They will fly back home and buy something there and improve their house. That's why, you know, when we have a traffic jam over Christmas time, people they're going home. That's where they're going. So I think there's a big question mark about how many people want to, especially, take debt, long-term debt, to own a city home. It's not zero. By the way, I'm not saying it is zero. There are definitely many people, and we've got people who are building. I mean, we have builders and developers who are building in the local market and selling in the urban areas. So the black market is not zero. But between 0 and 1 million, there are very many numbers. So it's a question of how we determine that. And I think one of my questions to the PS was, last year at some point there was a study being done by KPMG, which is what we were looking for to see, which starts identifying what's the actual demand for people who want to buy their homes as opposed to rent them. Expensive land, it's a big pain for us also. Because most people think developers like expensive land. We like expensive houses, not expensive land. Because the land is our raw material, so nobody likes expensive raw material or stones. It was a very good point about stones, I think. I never thought about it that way. But we would prefer cheap raw materials so that you can make a profit and sell. So land is a problem. But I think land is, the land pricing at the moment is partly a historical effect, and it's just that we find ourselves now here with our, where the government is or our country is that infrastructure tends to follow development, as opposed to development following infrastructure. And that's why it's expensive to buy bits of Wayaki if you are trying to expand it. But if you buy, this weekend I was in Naivasha, if you buy between Maimaki and Naivasha, if you buy that land now, it's nothing. Okay? It will cost you nothing to buy that land and do a 6-lane highway. But once you wait for Wayaki to come up, and people have built all these units, and then you try to buy it, then we have a problem. So that is a historical national problem that we are following. Development is following, infrastructure is following development. So you'll be surprised also, you mentioned you're also in charge of the other things, sewers. So Wayaki doesn't have a sewer. We built, my development happens to be on Wayaki. We added the sewer for 1.5 kilometers. That's where it ends at Kangemi.
Yeah.
No, it's a sewer. It's connected to the sewer. So we added it another 1.5 kilometers, but that's where it ends. So you have all this valuable land, but there is no sewer. If you go to, why does everybody want to build in Kilimani? There is water, there is power, there are roads, etc. So, and then that just drives up the value of the land because there is nothing else anywhere else. Luckily, like you said, and I think you pointed out, we now have new mixed use developments coming out. We have Nairobi Gate, we have Tatu, we have TDC. So this place is opening up. As long as infrastructure goes before them, the land price should come down. We were very happy to hear about the legislation. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. The 39 legislations, we say amen and amen. Let's sort out these legal issues. In fact, our view, you asked me why isn't private sector coming in? And we think where government should be focusing on, especially on these are the real issues, is around urban planning. You mentioned transactions. Those are the pain points, because we marked out which are the pain points that are hurting us as private developers. So if we can get urban planning done, because it is not only the infrastructure has not been done, etc., but it now costs us, most pieces of land today are single dwelling or agricultural. So if I want to change it to multiple dwellings, etc., I then have to pay. I pay an urban planner, pay an architect, I pay council fees, I then go to the lands office to have my title changed. It is such a long process to be able to be allowed to build anyway. And there is NEMA, Walma, and all those guys. So if we sort out those legislation bits and make that road easier, especially the approvals, that would be good. I like the fact that you mentioned private sector. And even my last point, I just want to say is that people are building. And in fact, one of our pleas to PS today is if you come, they are our members building affordable housing. It is not that it is zero. So in fact what people are worried is how come nobody is talking about my building? Okay, what's wrong with my affordable house? So how can we bring those in? And I think many of the developers have no problem with it coming and you can come and bandika affordable housing. It's part of, count as part of your project. So people are building them. I think there's a question of whether it's for sale. That's a big question. But also there's a big question around, okay, maybe affordability, what the price is, but they are definitely low-cost housing. And we would actually like for government to come and own, not own them, but take them as part of their project, because people are doing that.
Okay, yeah, that was long, so you're not going to take that long. But we have heard now that 7,000 is the real number. Like, seriously, are they even serious? 7,000 is the number of mortgages that we have in this market. The rest is bank stuff, just getting the 3, 4, 5% that counts with being a bank employee. Surely you can do better than that. Let's start there. You can do better than that. What's happening there?
Okay, the reason why bankers don't resign from their jobs is because they get cheap mortgages. So you can be sure that I will not be retiring. I will be leaving the banking sector anytime soon until KMRC comes and gives a matching rate. But that's beside the point. It is actually an incentive, and just to dwell on that a little bit more for about a couple of seconds, it's not just banks that actually incentivize their employees to own homes. In the recent past, we've actually seen a lot of the private sector, because home ownership is actually a dream for everyone. And in the market now, for you to get a quality employee, you have to actually entice them with home ownership. We have lots of corporates right now, including government, that are actually using home ownership as a way of attracting good employees. So the single-digit rates I read is not just in the banking sector. It's also in all the big corporates, I can tell you. We run the mortgage scheme, so.
And yet we still have the 7,000.
Yes. Back to the 7,000 question. Home ownership for the many years in the past has been quite a challenge. One, it started with perception. So for many years, a lot of Kenyans feared owning a home through a mortgage. So somebody would rather do the small savings through the circle.
It wasn't misplaced until the rate cap. What were the rates for paying for that mortgage? Let's be honest.
I'll take you through the journey before the rate cap.
Exactly. Quickly.
During the rate cap, and just what we anticipate when the rate cap goes. So before the rate cap came in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, Kenyans didn't really understand what a mortgage was. So very few of us actually could take the courage to take a mortgage. So we had only 2 mortgage institutions then. That was SNL and Housing Finance. The rest of the other banks actually didn't even like the risk of giving a mortgage in the first place. Coming down to when the government started making work a lot easier, the central bank started making the processes for home lending a lot easier. All commercial banks, I can tell you for now, actually give mortgages, which was never there in the past.
Austin, you realize what you're saying is, if they
I'm trying to explain the 7,000.
It's 1 a month.
I'm trying to explain the 7,000. So then we came into the boom, where now a lot of Kenyans now started owning homes. That is the between around 2002 to around 2009, 2010, before the rains went haywire. That is when we saw a lot of Kenyans actually take home. So if you look at the 30,000 mortgages that we have, which is now being questioned because of the number of bankers that have their mortgages, a lot of them were actually written during that period. Because if you ask the developers, that time the demand was also very high. The economy was doing very well. people had money to actually purchase homes, and everyone was coming in for a mortgage. We had a challenge thereafter with the rates going haywire, which slowed down. And the slowing down came from two fronts. One from the developer side, because the costs went up. So when your cost of, as Brother Michel was explaining, when the cost of development goes up, what goes up next? The price of the house. And eventually, that is loaded on the mortgage. So as the price of the house goes up, the mortgage becomes unaffordable. So a lot of people wouldn't be able to afford homes. And during that time, we realized a lot of developers actually had houses that couldn't sell. And we had a lot of NPLs in the market going forward. The rate cap came in, which surprisingly only helped the buyer, but didn't help the developer for some reason. Because the developer still looked at a risk level that is higher than the purchaser. So as much as there are purchasers now that are able to afford a home, there are the homes that are available with the cost of development are not matching what the purchaser can be able to afford.
Wow.
So what do? You have a home, it's written somewhere, but you don't have a title, because the process of getting through that whole title process for the developers will tell you is quite tedious. You have to do change of users, which takes a couple of years. You have to know someone somewhere to be able to fast track things for you. The lawyers also have to make money out of you for some good reason. The government, sorry for the PS, but some of your ministries are also quite, I'm trying to use a good word.
I'm trying for you not to go there.
So for that, if that is sorted, and I'm now going to the good story, that has been the bad story. If we are able to sort out the processes as the PS is talking about, and the affordable housing comes in full force, the developers are sorted, because us as financiers, we rely on the developers. If the developer can give you a house in affordable way, or cheaply, cheap and affordable might not be the same thing. But if they can able to deliver to you an affordable house, then the banks will be able to finance you in an affordable way. If the government can be able to help us source for cheaper funding, so that the funds we're using, we're not paying so much money for them. We're able to lend to you at a cheaper rate, and then the increase, the uptake then gets much higher. Then we're able to create that demand for the developers, and the government supports us with the processes and making sure that everything actually falls in place.
Okay.
Please allow me quickly to give you just 4 benefits that I forgot to tell you. 1, through this program, if you're a first-time homeowner, stamp duty is exempt. Now that is huge. That's 4% plus or minus, so that's pretty good. The Income Tax Act, Amendment Act of last year, before we asked you to make a mandatory contribution, we gave you a relief. So there's an affordable housing relief that is law today, which is 15% of your gross, subject to a maximum of 9,000 a month. That is law today, all right? Now, we are still waiting for guidelines, because KRA must give us the guidelines as to how that is going to be done as employers. But technically, what that means is that while you're waiting for a house and you're contributing, your income is not going to go down, right? Because we understand that most Kenyans, majority of the Kenyans that we're trying to address their issues, don't have any legroom, right? Now, the third thing that I want to, it will be remiss of me if I don't tell you why this is a great idea, is if you are in the social housing bracket, now you can get a house at 3% interest rate for, say, 30 years.
Oh, wow.
All right?
Sorry, say that again.
Can I repeat again?
Yes.
Social housing meaning that if you earn between 0 and 15,000 shillings, 3%, not per month, per annum, yeah? 3% per annum interest rate for over 30 years. Now, this is not some wishful story. We've already done a pilot. There are 822 units today where we have advanced mortgages, Soweto, A, Kibera, at 3%. And therefore, the key thing that we keep on missing, and just to rebut one of the points here, is if we are able to ensure that the same amount of money you're paying for rent today is the same amount of money you are paying to own a house. Why would you want to pay rent? So, but the only way you can do it is by addressing the cost. So at 3%, someone in Kibera that has a house for 1 million shillings is paying 4,500. It's the same amount of money for a 2-roomed house. Someone who's across the street in Soweto B is paying for a shack. This one, by the way, has all the utilities that you need. Now, this is the kind of transformation that there has to be a conversation about social justice as well. Because for as long as this country, we don't fix these issues, and they manifest themselves around elections time, and they have no sense of ownership, they don't feel that we have a stake in this economy. So let's not say, mimi niko na nyumba yangu, hiyo ni shida ule wa slum. Lazima tusaidie, and this is the only way we can help. Now, all those in the affordable housing bracket, 7% fixed. Now, my friend, that's 7%, that's half of where you are today. Right? So there's a lot more transformation and a lot more assistance that we are making sure that Kenyans actually get the benefit. Now, one other thing that we did in December, again, it can't make headlines because maybe it's not a handshake. Unprecedented in the history of World Bank. This State Department, on the 20th of December, we transferred $111 million once to all counties. That is 11 billion in one day to counties. 45 counties and 14 what we call towns that have got more than 70,000 people. Now, what is this money for? Because we need to discuss, it's not a PowerPoint presentation, this thing is already happening. And the challenge that I have, and this is, me, I say things the way they are. The challenge that I have is that we will debate here, with, especially locally. And then we have our brothers from China. I tell you what the Chinese package they've given us. They've said we can do 250,000 houses. We are putting a grant of so much money. We are putting X as concessionary money, and this is the commercial part. These guys are thinking ahead of us. Sisi tu ni Twitter na story mingi. Alafu after mtasema nini? Oh, hii nyumba zilikuwa za kulipia Chinese. Yeah. So I want you guys to know that the counties now are sitting with 11 billion shillings. What is that money for? The things that you talk about, we want them to plan. Because the problem with Nairobi is that we develop and then we plan later. Yeah? And that's why you see all the challenges that we have. So counties now, and it's a conditional grant. So in the next year, because I'm giving them 111 billion every year, if for the next 6 years, for the next 5 years, right? If counties don't comply, I take that money and I give the ones who are complying. So I want them to do urban planning. I want them to do spatial planning, so that we stop also this thing of subdividing our agricultural land. So even in those rural counties, because housing is being done across the Nairobi. I know Nairobi can absorb the entire half a million houses, but we are doing across the country. So today, ask your governor. And the other thing that I want you to do, instead of getting a Twitter and a kelele, you join those boards. We have set up urban boards in every town and former municipalities. But if you see the fellows that have been recruited to those boards, so instead of kupiga mimi mpiga au governor mjingizo huko mwingine kwa hizo boards, Kenyans are saying they want houses. Kwa hivyo mkisikia mtu mmoja anasema they don't want houses, and then rural housing. Rural housing, a majority of our people live in the rural areas. And you want to retire and go to the Gishaki. But we have accommodated it in this program. So we will also finance you at 3%, 7%, right? But we want you to use the right materials to build. So we have set out 92, what is called ABMT, centers, appropriate building materials and techniques or technology, whatever you guys call them. But 92 is not enough. So today, most of you, when you get out of here, you'll see on Twitter, we signed with the TVET colleges. We have over 1,000 TVET colleges in this country. So we've said we are handing over these ABMT sites to TVET, so that as the youngsters are coming from the TVET, we are also giving them machines, these matofali machines. Toffas. We're giving them Toffas, which is a Kenyan-made machine, so that they can start. Once the toys of members are matope, because Kunyiha, you're right, maybe it's 67%, but what is a matope?
Exactly. Now, the question is, are we part of the plan? Where's the buy-in? Are we part of the plan? Because I haven't quite had a clear link between how the developers are going to be part of, because you have mentioned about the money, you have mentioned about the land, but we haven't quite seen...
The third one is developers, you're the execution.
Execution. Yeah, all right. Questions coming up? Oh, wow, okay. Mr. PS, I hope you have had one more samosa, but also questions to the rest of the other gentlemen over here. Somebody's going to help me with the mic?
Yeah, oh, and...
so they don't become a mono.
Okay.
Yeah, there are also quite a few people to ask here. Yeah, go ahead, Ochi.
I must follow her. I'm also being honest, whenever I've heard government officers talk about these things, they've often talked fluff. This is the first time I've heard a government officer make a presentation that is solid and very well put together. And those who know me know I never say things like that. So first, congratulations. You've put together a very fantastic presentation. My first request to you is to get some written form of what you said. Because there's no way, I didn't have a pen, one could write all those things, and they need to be written. There's only one thing I would ask you, not really ask you, I would ask you to think about, because it's not an instantaneous thing. If you bring money from outside, $15 billion, Kenya can't repay it. So I'd go towards, my own instinct is to go towards what she said, to try and fund it domestically, because outside you know, the tea, the coffee, and all the rest of the stuff we're growing, which is outside your control, we're not making enough of it to repay, so that could become a constraint. So to the extent we can fund it domestically, it will be...
even if it's just a part of it.
Yes, a really good thing. So for me, that's the only thing with the structuring, the domestic side, because we try to do that on the roads annuity. One of the problems is if you start borrowing from outside, we don't have the capacity to pay. And then the other second thing is, you're correct that our Chinese brethren are faster than us, but they're being heavily backed by their governments. I deal with them a lot, so it's correct to push us, but also take into account that they're not really individuals fighting to do this. They're heavily backed by their government. So the government also has, separately from you, it's not really you, but a role in saying, how do you use this housing thing to actually jumpstart the economy?
For me, I felt a bit...
your name?
I felt a bit light to speak on the basis that I've seen the PS and other government functionaries really trying to justify that house tax is not a Robin Hood tax. I think when you read our constitution, we confer ourselves a democratic socialism or democratic socialism, social democracy in our constitution. And you also talked about the issue about social justice. What social justice actually means is to take from those who are well off, very controversial, from those who are well off to make others better off. So that tax is legitimate. It is constitutional. All you need to do is to put it in your architecture of public finance so that it is conceptualized from the time you're making the BPS, the budget policy statement, that we're going to set aside money for socio-economic rights under Article 43 and money for social justice. That you who are wealthy have to carry part of the burden of that poor society. It's a controversial doctrine, but countries must do it. And we said it, we proclaimed it in our constitution, and we must live by it. A country or a government has a responsibility to protect its most vulnerable. The markets are just unimaginable. Just to give you an example, I bought a house when I was a commissioner at the KSA job at 8 million shillings. And I could afford it at that time because as a commissioner of the state, I was being paid about 400,000 shillings. The same house I live in right now, that same property, is now 27 million. The same commissioners who have my job, who are paid better at 520,000, cannot afford that house in 5 years. I paid for it in 3.5 years. So you must come and disrupt the market and not apologize about it, because your masses are the ones who vote for you and you have a responsibility to that. And the last one, in the event you have land, so in fact we must disrupt also the banks. One of the motions I supported very blindly. I had no idea. I had so many elaborate presentations of how interest caps were detrimental to borrowing and to credit. I even asked the guy, can't you even do it lower? Because we must protect the vulnerable Kenyan from market forces, especially when a country is poor and fragile. So I'm asking you, if you have land, you have you have the technology, you have the resources, you have the designs, you have everything, which is within that development framework, how long does it take to process your guarantee or the larger level of support?
One more, and then you can reply to that. Yeah.
Hello, Sita Shah with Global Property Advice. I'm really moved as well, thank you, and have heard you speak many times and feel we've come to a point where you've been able to bring all the factors together and really listen to all the sectors. So a couple of questions, and I used to work as a housing lender in the US. I gave up, I'm Kenyan and went to the US specifically to study housing finance. We don't allow pension contributions to be used in financing a home, and why not? It's being used as secondary collateral, but that's not adequate. Maybe a model like Canada, where you can use 20% would be good. The second thing is, I have a hesitation with the Affordable Rental Housing Fund for none of the reasons you've said. I think everything you're trying to achieve is perfectly on target, but the big worry is, what is the admin cost? I did not see in the Act whether there is going to be a cap on the admin cost. I've heard anecdotally that we lose the better half of the money that goes into NSSF and NHIF. So is there some way to control it? So Kenyans really feel this money is going for housing. And did we need to set up a whole other fund? Maybe the ring fencing. This is going to his point. If you write it down, if you ring fenced it and NSSF is not ring fenced, then yes, we are able to sway people's opinion on why we need a whole other infrastructure, right? The final thing is rental. My housing journey is now very, very long. I started it in 2004, so 14 years, and I've come to a very deep acceptance that we need rental. Because the questions you're saying, yes, okay, people in Soweto, you've got this pilot. People are getting housing at 3%, but if you gave that to the 14 million Kenyans, we're still very poor. Maybe we say we're not the poorest, but we're still very poor. My husband works in Isiolo. Most of Kenyans earn less than $2 a day. So a simple statistic, Mr. Hinga, right? If we talk about 14 million people and you try to give them a house with $5,000, that's $500,000, which is not being provided right now. The market can't provide it because the costs are too high. You need $200 million. So my point is, we need rental, because till we can have $200 billion to give everyone dignified housing, let's give them rental. And a very easy way to do that is to say, any housing for rental for less than 15,000 shillings a month, you have a gross rental tax of 3%. Let's get dignified housing. That will clean up the slums a lot faster.
Okay. Mr. Pierce.
Thank you very much.
Address that one first.
All right.
Street executives